Do you know that long before lions, wolves, or any great predator walked the earth, a giant flightless bird was already ruling an entire continent as its undisputed king? Towering nearly 10 feet tall, carrying a skull the size of a horse's head, and armed with a hooked beak powerful enough to crack bone like dry wood, this creature was no ordinary bird. It was a living weapon, a nightmare built by millions of years of evolution. For nearly 60 million years, the terror bird commanded South America with total authority, and every living creature that shared its world understood one simple truth: when this hunter moved, everything else ran. Scientists who first unearthed its fossilized remains could barely believe what they were looking at. The bones told a story of a predator so perfectly designed that it seemed almost impossible that something this powerful could ever disappear. But if this creature was so dominant, so feared, and so perfectly evolved for survival, what invisible force finally shattered its reign and erased it from the living world forever? Today, we will uncover the forgotten story behind this extraordinary creature, the terror bird, and chase the haunting mystery of its final disappearance across 60 million years of lost history. To truly understand the terror bird, we must first erase everything we think we know about the world and travel back, far back, to a time when the Earth itself looked nothing like today. Fast forward to approximately 66 million years ago. The great asteroid has just struck. The non-avian dinosaurs are gone. The world is silent, broken, and covered in ash. But life, as it always does, begins to rebuild itself from the wreckage. And in this strange, recovering world, birds, the last surviving relatives of the dinosaurs, begin an extraordinary experiment in evolution. Most birds grow small. Most birds learn to fly. But in one isolated corner of the world, one extraordinary lineage makes a very different choice. South America, during this period, is not connected to any other continent. It sits alone in the ocean like a massive island, slowly drifting, carrying its own creatures through time like passengers on a ship with no destination. There are no wolves here, no lions, no large mammalian hunters to fill the role of apex predator. The land is open, rich, and waiting. And into that empty throne steps a bird that decides it no longer needs wings. This is where the story of the Phorusrhacidae begins, the family of flightless predatory birds that scientists and the world would eventually come to call terror birds. Here is the puzzling part. For a long time, scientists had no idea these creatures even existed. The first fossilized fragments were discovered in Argentina in 1887 by a paleontologist named Florentino Ameghino. When he studied the shattered bones pulled from ancient Patagonian rock, he was confused. The pieces were enormous. The beak fragment alone was unlike anything from the known fossil record. For years, researchers debated what kind of animal had left these remains behind. Nobody expected what they eventually confirmed, that the bones belonged to a bird. Not a small bird, not even a large bird by modern standards, but a predatory giant that rewrote everything scientists believed about the potential of avian evolution. Evidence revealed something unexpected as more fossils emerged across decades. The terror bird was not one single species. It was an entire family, a dynasty of related predators that evolved and diversified across tens of millions of years. Some stood 5 feet tall, others reached nearly 10. Some were built for explosive speed, with long, powerful legs designed like biological springs. Others were built for raw, crushing force, their neck muscles thick and their beaks shaped like a pickaxe made of living bone. The smallest species hunted like wolves, chasing prey across open grasslands. The largest species, like the magnificent Kelenken guillermois, whose skull alone measured nearly 3 feet in length, may have been capable of bringing down prey the size of a small horse. The ancient environment where these creatures thrived was nothing like the South America of today. Scientists studying fossilized pollen, ancient soil layers, and plant remains have painted a picture of vast open grasslands mixed with scattered forests. Rivers wound through the land. The climate was warm and humid in some regions, drier and more exposed in others. And across this ancient landscape, the terror bird moved like a ghost made of muscle and feather. utterly at the top of every food chain it inhabited. This discovery shocked researchers when it was confirmed through biomechanical studies of terror bird fossils. Unlike modern predatory birds that use their talons as primary weapons, the terror bird had relatively weak feet for grasping. Its true weapon was its skull. Scientists discovered that the beak was not designed for tearing the way an eagle's beak tears. Instead, it was engineered for hatchet-like downward strikes, powerful, repeated blows aimed at the skull or spine of prey. The bird would not wrestle its target. It would chase it, corner it, and then deliver precision strikes until the prey collapsed. This was not random violence. This was calculated, evolved, mechanical killing. The clues stayed hidden for millions of years inside the geometry of those fossilized skulls. And when modern researchers finally ran computer simulations of terror bird skull stress patterns, the results were startling. The beak was specifically reinforced to absorb the impact of striking downward, not sideways. This bird had evolved a killing technique so specialized, so refined over millions of years of isolation, that it stood completely alone in the history of predatory evolution. For nearly 60 million years, South America belonged to the terror bird. It ruled without challenge. It evolved without competition. But deep in the geological record, buried beneath layers of ancient stone, a clock was quietly ticking. And nobody, not the terror bird, not the creatures it hunted, not the land itself, was prepared for what was already approaching from the north. Picture the scene. The sun rises over an ancient South American grassland, 30 million years ago. The air is thick and warm. A herd of small, horse-like mammals grazes nervously near a tree line, their heads lifting every few seconds, their nostrils reading the wind for danger. And then, from the tall grass, something moves. Not with the low crouch of a stalking cat, because there are no cats here. Not with the patient crawl of a wolf, because there are no wolves here either. Instead, something tall, something impossibly fast, and something that carries its head nearly 10 feet above the ground steps into the open. The herd scatters in an explosion of hooves and panic. But it is already too late for the slowest one. The terror bird has chosen its target. And once a terror bird chooses, the outcome is almost never in doubt. This was the daily reality of South America during the terror bird's age of total dominance. And understanding how this creature actually lived, how it hunted, how it moved, how it survived from one sunrise to the next, required scientists to become detectives, reading stories written not in words, but in fossilized bone, ancient footprints, and the chemistry of million-year-old teeth. Here is the puzzling part. For a long time, scientists assumed terror birds hunted the way most large predators do, through ambush, through stealth, through surprise. But the fossil evidence told a completely different story. The leg bones of terror birds, when analyzed carefully, revealed something remarkable. The proportions, the length of the lower leg compared to the upper leg, the structure of the foot bones, matched the biomechanical profile of a pursuit predator, a sprinter. Some calculations suggested that medium-sized terror bird species could reach running speeds of 30 to 40 miles per hour across open ground. This was not a creature that waited in shadows. This was a creature that ran its prey into exhaustion and then finished the hunt with surgical precision. Evidence revealed something unexpected when scientists studied the fossilized environments where terror bird remains were most commonly found. The bones clustered in open grassland deposits, ancient savannas and wide plains where speed would provide maximum advantage. This was a creature shaped by its landscape, and its landscape had shaped it into something extraordinary. Long legs for covering ground, a lightweight body structure despite its enormous size. Reduced wings folded close to its sides, useless for flight but not entirely purposeless. Researchers believe the small vestigial wings may have been used for balance during high-speed turns, functioning almost like the outstretched arms of a sprinting athlete. And then there was the beak. Scientists still debate every detail of exactly how the terror bird used its most famous weapon. But the biomechanical picture that has emerged from decades of fossil study is deeply fascinating. The skull, for all its enormous size, was not solid and heavy like the skull of a mammalian predator built for wrestling. It was internally honeycombed, a network of small, hollow chambers that reduced weight while maintaining structural strength. This engineering allowed the terror bird to carry that massive skull at the end of a long, powerful neck without toppling forward. And the neck itself was the key to everything. This discovery shocked researchers when the full mechanical picture became clear. The terror bird's killing strike was not delivered with the beak alone. The entire neck, thick with muscle, flexible yet explosive, functioned as a biological catapult. The bird would rear its head back and then drive it downward with tremendous force, the hooked tip of the beak targeting the skull or the spine of its prey with the precision of a hammer striking a nail. Studies suggest a single, full-force strike from a large terror bird species could have been enough to kill or critically injure prey animals considerably larger than itself. This was not brute force. This was physics, biology, and millions of years of evolutionary refinement working together in perfect, terrible harmony. The biggest question remained unanswered for years. Did terror birds hunt alone or in groups? The fossil record has not yet provided definitive proof of pack behavior, but some researchers studying the distribution of fossil sites and the size range of prey animals found in associated deposits have suggested that certain terror bird species may have cooperated during hunts. Not with the complex social coordination of wolves, perhaps, but with a loose, opportunistic partnership. 2 or 3 birds driving prey toward each other across open ground. Nobody expected this possibility when terror birds were first discovered, and the scientific debate around it continues today. Meanwhile, deep in prehistoric time, the world that had made the terror bird possible was quietly being maintained by forces far larger than any single creature. South America's isolation, its separation from all other land masses, was the invisible wall that had protected the terror bird's throne for tens of millions of years. No large mammalian predators could cross open ocean to challenge it. No competing hunters could arrive and steal its ecological role. The continent was a sealed kingdom, and the terror bird was its undisputed monarch. But isolation, as history always reveals, is not protection forever. Rare scientific discoveries about the terror bird's lifestyle continued to emerge as fossil technology improved. Isotope analysis of terror bird bones, a technique that reads the chemical signatures left behind by an animal's diet, confirmed that these creatures were indeed dedicated carnivores at the very top of their food chains. Their diet appears to have consisted primarily of the mammals and large rodents that shared their ancient grasslands. Some isotope evidence even suggests that larger species may have been capable of consuming prey that weighed as much as themselves, a feat that places them among the most powerful land predators in the history of mammalian-era evolution. And then, approximately 3 million years ago, the geological clock that had been ticking since long before the terror bird's birth finally reached a moment that would change everything. The clock of extinction was already ticking. Slowly, over millions of years, tectonic movement, the grinding, unstoppable drift of continental plates, had been pushing South America and North America toward each other. The gap between them, once an open ocean channel, was narrowing. And approximately 3 million years ago, the final connection was made. A thin strip of land rose from the water between the two continents. Scientists call this event the Great American Biotic Interchange. The world has no more dramatic name for what was, in geological terms, the opening of a door. And through that door, from the north, came animals that had spent millions of years evolving alongside large mammalian predators. Creatures shaped by competition, hardened by challenge, refined by an arms race of predator and prey that the isolated world of South America had never experienced. The first shadows of that northern world began to fall across the terror bird's ancient kingdom. And for the first time in 60 million years, something on this continent was worth being afraid of. There is a particular kind of silence that follows the end of something that was once unstoppable. Scientists who study extinction often describe it not as a single dramatic moment, but as a slow unraveling, a gradual loosening of every thread that once held a creature's world together, until one day, without ceremony, without warning, the last thread breaks. The terror bird did not disappear in a single catastrophic instant. Its end was something far more complex, far more layered, and in many ways, far more heartbreaking than a simple disaster. It was the story of a perfect predator meeting a world that had finally changed faster than even perfection could adapt to. To understand how the terror bird vanished, we must return to that geological doorway, the land bridge that rose between North and South America approximately 3 million years ago. Fast forward through the slow grind of tectonic time. The shallow sea channel between the two continents narrows. Islands appear. Then the islands connect. Then the land bridge solidifies into something permanent. A corridor of Earth stretching between two worlds that had been separated for tens of millions of years. Scientists call the massive movement of species that followed the Great American Biotic Interchange. And the fossil record of this event reads like a collision between two entirely different experiments in evolution. Here is the puzzling part. For a long time, scientists assumed that the arrival of large mammalian predators from North America, creatures like early relatives of modern big cats and dogs, was the direct and immediate cause of the terror bird's extinction. The story seemed straightforward. New predators arrived. They competed with terror birds for prey. The terror birds lost. Case closed. But the fossil clues told a far more complicated story. And when researchers began assembling those clues with greater precision, the picture that emerged was something nobody expected. The first unexpected discovery came from the fossil timeline itself. When scientists carefully dated the last known terror bird fossils and cross-referenced them with the arrival dates of North American predators, something strange emerged. The timelines did not perfectly align. Some terror bird species appear to have survived for hundreds of thousands of years after the land bridge opened. Some may have even crossed into North America themselves. Fossilized terror bird remains have been found in Florida and Texas, suggesting that these birds were not simply passive victims of invasion, but active survivors attempting to expand into new territory. This discovery shocked researchers. The terror bird was not immediately defeated by the arrival of northern competitors. Something else was happening simultaneously, something deeper and more systemic than simple predator competition. Evidence revealed something unexpected in the ancient soil records and fossilized plant deposits from this period. The climate of South America was changing. The vast open grasslands that had sustained the terror bird's hunting lifestyle for millions of years were shifting. Temperatures fluctuated. Rainfall patterns changed. The great open plains, those wide, flat corridors of speed where the terror bird's legs gave it supreme advantage, began to fragment. Forests expanded in some regions. Rivers changed course. The ecological architecture that had been specifically built over millions of years to suit a fast-running, open-ground pursuit predator was being quietly dismantled by forces that had nothing to do with any competing animal. Scientists still debate this mystery. Which was more damaging to the terror bird, the arrival of new predators or the transformation of its environment? Most modern researchers believe the true answer lies in the devastating combination of both. Neither factor alone may have been enough to bring down a lineage that had survived for 60 million years. But together, arriving simultaneously, they created a pressure that even 60 million years of evolutionary refinement could not answer quickly enough. The biggest question remained unanswered for decades. Why couldn't the terror bird simply adapt? It had adapted before. Its entire evolutionary history was a testament to flexibility and resilience. But adaptation requires time. Millions of years of time. And the changes arriving in the terror bird's world during this final period were compressed into a geological eye blink. A few million years at most. Evolution cannot sprint. It can only walk. And the world was changing at a run. The fossil clues began to thin out. Sites that once produced abundant terror bird remains across wide geographic areas began to yield only isolated fragments. The diversity of species shrank. Where once there had been many different sizes and varieties of terror bird filling different ecological roles across the continent, now only a handful of species remained. The dynasty was contracting, pulling back, losing ground one fossil layer at a time. The last known terror bird species, Titanus walleri, the same creature whose remains were found in North America, suggesting that extraordinary final push into new territory. disappears from the fossil record approximately 1.8 million years ago. Some researchers have proposed that the date may be even more recent, with disputed evidence suggesting possible survival until as late as 10,000 years ago, which would place the last terror birds in potential contact with the earliest human arrivals in the Americas. But the scientific community has not yet reached consensus on this more recent date, and most evidence points to that 1.8 million year boundary as the true end of the terror bird story. And then there is nothing. No more bones, no more footprints, no more fossilized evidence of that extraordinary skull driving downward with the force of a biological hammer. 60 million years of unbroken predatory dominance, and then silence. Now return to that ancient moment and ask the question that every extinction story eventually forces us to ask. What does this mean for us? The modern connection to the terror bird story is not comfortable. It is not meant to be. Scientists who study this extinction today see in its causes a mirror reflecting our own time with disturbing clarity. The terror bird did not disappear because it was weak. It did not disappear because it was poorly designed. It disappeared because the combination of environmental transformation and new competitive pressures arrived faster than even 60 million years of evolutionary success could respond to. Today, the rate of habitat destruction across South America, the very continent where the terror bird ruled for longer than the human mind can truly comprehend, is among the fastest on Earth. The Amazon basin, the Cerrado grasslands, the Pantanal wetlands. Ecosystems that took millions of years to construct are being dismantled in decades. And the animals living within those ecosystems face a version of the same impossible equation that destroyed the terror bird. Change arriving faster than adaptation can follow. What we learn from this creature extends beyond biology. The terror bird teaches us that no level of evolutionary perfection provides permanent protection against a world that changes too quickly. It teaches us that isolation, whether geographical or ecological, creates vulnerabilities that only become visible when the walls finally come down. It teaches us that the loss of a species is never a simple event. It is always the end of a story that took millions of years to write. Modern science continues to study the terror bird through increasingly sophisticated tools. CT scanning of fossilized skulls now allows researchers to reconstruct the brain structure of these ancient predators, revealing details about their sensory capabilities and intelligence. Chemical analysis of fossil sites continues to refine our understanding of their diet and habitat preferences. And genetic studies of their closest living relatives, the Sariamas of South America, small ground-hunting birds that share the terror bird's basic body plan, offer living windows into the biology of a creature that no human being has ever seen alive. The clues stayed hidden for millions of years in the relationship between those living Sariamas and their giant ancestors. Watching a Sariama hunt today, the way it runs across open ground, the way it uses its beak to strike downward at prey, the way it holds its head high and surveys its territory with sharp, calculating eyes, is as close as any living human being will ever come to watching a terror bird move through its ancient world. And there is something both beautiful and devastating about that. We live in a world shaped by extinctions we did not cause, and extinctions we did. The terror bird's disappearance belongs to the first category, a natural collision of geological forces, climate shifts, and ecological transformation that no conscious choice could have prevented. But the extinctions happening around us today belong to a different category entirely. They are the result of choices, and choices, unlike tectonic plates, can be changed. The terror bird stood 10 feet tall and ruled a continent for 60 million years. It was one of the most successful predators in the history of life on this planet. And it is gone. Every last one of them, gone, leaving behind only scattered bones in ancient rock, waiting for human hands to find them, and human minds to piece together the story of what once walked this earth with such extraordinary power. Here is the final thought that the terror bird leaves us with, across all those millions of years of silence. If something that perfectly evolved, that magnificently adapted, that utterly dominant could disappear, what does that tell us about the fragility of the living world we still have? And more importantly, what are we going to do about it?